So let's get to it. Welcome back to Unlocking Your More podcast with Janna Holterman. Today's going to be a little bit different, a little bit more personal and vulnerable with something that I am currently going through and dealing with, and I haven't fully got to the other side of it, but I think this is something that so many of us can relate to, and that is talking about our weight. And a lot of us have a lot of drama when it comes to our weight, having excess weight, whether it be too much, too little, certain parts of our body we don't love, all of this. So from the understanding, intuitive perspective, which is really like from our higher selves, and our higher selves again is us completely like unencumbered, so unrestricted by limiting beliefs, by societal norms, by all of these things that we've been conditioned to believe. So our higher self is truly like a version of us that is like completely unconditionally in love with themselves, completely fully accepting of themselves, who can see the balance, who can see how things are always working out. And so our higher selves are kind of like our guide in this lifetime to help us on our soul-led path and to kind of get to certain milestones and things that like our soul has chosen to accomplish in this lifetime. So when it comes to that, something that a lot of us deal with is extra weight on our bodies, and I'm going to be focusing on that. Too little weight also has kind of meanings behind it, but at the end of the day, holding on to extra weight, yes, there is the human component of like, okay, calories in versus calories out, blah, 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 blah. But I can tell you from personal experience, the calories in and the calories out do not make sense with the additional weight on my body. So you would think that like if you looked at like how healthily that I eat, and I am extremely like grateful to be able to, buy really healthy foods. I have a good understanding of nutrition. Thanks, Mom, who's a dietitian, and, my own research and everything like that. So I'm not eating foods that would necessarily cause additional weight gain. And like if I were to count calories, which is not something that I normally do intuitively eat, but if I do count calories, it's not adding up. And which is why this is so many people who have restricted diets and all of these things, they would do things that, and maybe you found like short-term results, because I've also done that. There was a period in my life when this was like 2018. So I like joined Beachbody, and I was doing, they had like these like portion control cups, like the little tiny cups, what was her name? Autumn Calabrese or something like that. So she had these little tiny cups, and I did that, and I lost like 30 pounds in a very short period of time because I was truly in a caloric deficit while doing like high intensity exercises. So, but that was the thing, it didn't last, right? Like once I stopped using those little cups and I stopped doing those like really high intensity cardio driven exercises, I gained the weight back. And so this is what happens too, right? Like people are really, really restrictive and then they gain the weight back. So I don't want to look at this episode's not going to be like, oh, like do this and do that, like from a human physical perspective. This is going to be from a intuitive higher self, like source God, and emotional perspective of why we hold extra weight. So to get into that, every single part of our body has a emotional meaning behind it, and we look at the body part. So when I'm doing an intuitive read and somebody would come to me and they say, okay, I have more weight than I'm happy with. Okay, well, we're going to look at the body part that they have, that like the specific body part, and each and every single body part has a emotional root cause as to why it's holding extra weight on it. And as a general rule, for the entire body, our body is designed to protect itself, right? Our body is protecting us. So when we, not necessarily, it can be from the external world, like our body wants to protect us from the external world, But truly, an outside source can't make you feel something you don't already feel yourself. So if somebody is insulting you and you're offended by it, it is only because you already have like the perception of being hard on yourself or beating yourself up in a similar capacity. Because if I were to go to you and I'd be like, I hate your blue hair, it is the ugliest blue hair I've ever seen in my entire life, and you don't have blue hair, so you're just like, all right, this lady's crazy, like you brush it off and it means nothing to you. But if I were to go and pick something that you were already insecure about and be like, I hate that, that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen, you're going to immediately have a strong emotional reaction. And it's not actually because of my words. I might have triggered the action with my words, but your response is because of your brain and your perception of the reality of the situation that we are in, because of your thoughts, feelings, and life experiences that have created these belief systems and made you think and believe certain things. So when it comes to extra body weight, it is literally a protection of us from us. So when we have strong negative emotions, and I mean, true emotions are not always like positive or negative, whatever, but like when we have a strong negative emotion, so like a lower vibrational emotion, it could be anger, frustration, resentment, any of these things, right? So we have these emotions and we like are predispositioned to look at situations and just get frustrated really easily. Like that's a pattern, right? Like if I just like, you know, I go to work and like the littlest thing happens and I'm immediately frustrated. Like I come home and, you know, something is broken or something, my dog like rips something up, I'm immediately frustrated. Like if you're continually being like, oh, I immediately go to frustration, I immediately go to frustration, I immediately go to frustration, every single situation just makes me frustrated. So what's happening is your brain has a thought pattern and it's surveying the situation and choosing the train of thought that creates that emotion of frustration, because our brains work on autopilot. They go to the strongest neural connection that it thinks is most appropriate for that situation. So if your strongest neural connection is to be like, oh my god, this is so freaking annoying, and then frustration happens, it's like, ugh, of course this would happen to me, right? Like, of course this would happen to me. That's like such a common one for people. Like, leave it to me, this is gonna happen, right? So the frustration happens. This is your brain pattern on repeat. When we have these strong negative emotions on repeat for literally years, the emotion is almost never processed. If you've never been taught how to process your emotions, which in our society, in our world, like 1% of the population actually knows how to process emotions. Like don't blame yourself for not being, this is not an excuse to beat yourself up in addition, right? 1% of the population knows how to actually process emotions. So if you don't know how to process emotions, that's not a problem. This is just like, have an awareness, okay? You probably don't know how to process emotions to the degree to be able to actually shift and move that frustration, that anger, that resentment out of your body. So emotions cannot be created or destroyed. They can be transmuted and like turned into something else, and they can be like they can be removed from your body. But if you do not process them, you do not see them, experience them, feel them, or energetically pull them out of your body, they stay there. And when we have years, literally decades of emotional buildup that happens, all of these emotions get trapped in the body and they create densities within the body, because it's so overwhelming to our nervous system to constantly feel that. It comes like in the computer where it like compresses a file, compresses a file, compresses a file, compresses a file. So like if it compresses it into a tiny little thing, and that becomes a density. And if you were to go in and get an MRI, there's literally like, there's lighter body parts, and then normally like diseases and things are actually like darker in an MRI. And that's also a huge point of trapped emotions. So literal decades of built up trapped emotions will be lower vibrational, which means that they have like less light in them, which will show up in an MRI as like a disease bit. Kind of cool. So anyway, those emotions that get trapped can cause disease and sickness in our body. Our higher self and our body doesn't want us to be physically ill. You know, if it was like something that like was really bad, like would you rather, you know, your kidneys be negatively affected and be going into like kidney failure kind of thing? Or what our higher self does instead is it actually adds extra adipose fat tissue, and it holds this being cruel, being hard on ourselves in fat tissue instead of our organs. And so what's actually happening is your body is protecting you from your harsh criticisms, your frustration, your anger, your resentment towards yourself, and is adding this extra fat tissue versus actually negatively affecting the organs. And again, it can get to the point where the organs are getting affected, but that's like later on down the road. That's literally decades and decades and decades of this thing. So we want to fix the problems before it gets to organ involvement. And if organs are already involved, you can still do the emotional processing. We can reprogram our brain to feel a new way, and that can start to heal the physical body by releasing those emotions. And so this is so interesting because like as a nurse, you know, science has taught us different things, and that's okay. Science is catching up to, you know, the actual root of a lot of issues, but a lot of like Eastern medicine definitely talks about this, and there's a lot of different modalities that talk about emotional things. But when I would look at my patients, and I can still see this now because I work in specifically cardiac, but when I like look at the patient populations and certain diagnoses, I would see like there is so many similarities to their mood, their attitude, their like perception, the way that they handle situations, or just like their mental health diagnoses with physical things that were happening. And it's such a common pattern that I was like, ooh, this was even before I was like deep into this like intuitive side of things of like, interesting, I'm noticing that like all of my patients that have like fibromyalgia diagnosis are generally very like pessimistic and grouchy people, and they also tend to have a lot of like, you know, extra fat tissues. So interesting enough, like wow, their body was literally trying to protect them from all of those negative emotions by adding all this extra fat tissue. So let's get into me now. So what has been happening for me is I have, you know, the last 6 months, I did a massive shift in this business, you know, going from specifically healthcare related nurse burnout coaching kind of thing to making it more broad and general. I have kind of changed the way that I do one-on-one coaching. I have changed my membership. I have now launched my intuition program where I'm teaching other people about how to connect and really develop a deep self-trust and connection with themselves by training their intuition. And so I have stepped into, you know, a new level and a new identity, and I am helping more people. And with that becomes, I can tell you there's so many different moments in your life where you are stepping into a new level of you, and as you do that, there's going to be so many levels of opportunities to see the old version of you and how the old version of you would handle situations and choose a new way of being. And each time you choose a new way of being, it's like solidifying the new way of being, that new identity. And our nervous system is kind of like the last thing to catch up with this new way of being. And this could be, yes, stepping into an entrepreneurship role where like literally opening a business and starting a business is like the biggest mirror to every insecurity that you've ever had. And it's a good thing in that you get to see them all and explore and choose a new way of being and work with our neuroplasticity to rewire our brain and create that new experience. But it's a challenge, right? Like it basically, it's like a video game. When you have a new way of being, you're gonna, have to go through levels 1 through 10 to battle the bosses, and each time you win and succeed, you get a different kind of challenge, a different kind of, there's different things that come at you. But when you get to the end of level 10, you get to the end of level 10. This is a new identity, a new way of being, a new nervous system that feels truly safe in this unknown, which is no longer an unknown for your brain. Okay, so basically I've been, telling my higher self and everything that, like, I'm ready for this next level. I'm ready, to do more, to be more, to help more people, to have more impact, to grow my business in a new way. And because of that, this whole year of 2026 has literally been like one reflection, one challenge after another of those new levels of the video game that I have to master when it comes to self-belief, when it comes to my self-image, when it comes to my self-love, my self-trust, all of these things that I said, oh, I want to work on this, I want to shift this. It's been coming at me from every different angles, and there's all of these opportunities in my life to prove it to myself, basically. And so over the last 6 months or so, it has been obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. My diet has not changed. I'm still eating very healthy foods. I did go on vacation and I ate my ice cream, and that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And I have been working out fairly consistently. Maybe not as consistently as I was before, but I have been working out, and I have been on my healthy eating diet. I've been pouring into my body. I've been getting more regular massages. I've been doing all the things to take care of my body. Despite all of that, I've gained a consistent 5-6 pounds. And I know our weight can fluctuate 5 pounds a day. Like, that's pretty normal. But when I've consistently checked, it's been a consistent 5-ish pounds that I have gained over the last 5-6 months. And so this is so common. This happens to so many people, right? Like, you're looking at all of the things. You're like, well, I don't understand. My diet's not changed and I'm still exercising. What has happened? What has happened for me is this deep work that I have been doing mentally, physically, and emotionally, trying to get my nervous system to feel safe holding the space for these new people, trying to get my nervous system to feel safe teaching something that, this is the first time that I'm teaching an intuition program. And so I have to create this self-trust, this self-belief to recognize how unique and special it is that I can do this, that I actually have the skills and the knowledge, because I know I do, but our subconscious brain is like, but do you, right? Right? Your subconscious brain is going to be like, oh, I don't know. I don't think you can handle it. I don't think you're ready. I think you need to learn a million more things, when in reality, that's not the truth, right? So over these last 6 months, I have been doing so much emotional processing work. I've been doing so much brain reprogramming work, and still my first instinct, right, is to beat the crap out of myself, right? That's, I'm still extremely hard on myself. It has improved exponentially over the last couple of years, right? This has been an ongoing journey, but I still haven't mastered the level 10 of being really kind to myself. So I'm still being hard on myself. And because I'm still being hard on myself, even though I'm doing so much of this work, even though I am processing emotions, even though I am, showing up and I'm learning things and I'm integrating and I am creating a safety in my nervous system, it's still been so much, and it was more than I feel like I could actually humanly process over the last 6 months, as I've kind of gone through all this and up leveled in so many different capacities in my life, that my body was trying to protect me from me being mean to myself by holding on and creating extra weight. And this is something that I'm sure that you've experienced. And even if you're not doing the same level of work, this is not being well, I'm not doing as much as she is. No. Don't beat yourself up. You're still doing what you're capable of doing right now. And it's literally taken me years to be able to do the amount of brain reprogramming and the amount of nervous system and the amount of emotional processing work that I'm doing now. This has literally been years. And I think this is something that like so many people are so confused about with our society right now. Like, you can literally go on Amazon and get stuff in like 2 hours. We expect instantaneous results when we think we want a new way of being. When we want a new way of being, we have to do the work. And I think an analogy that is really beneficial to go and really set this into stone is, it took years, decades, right, to create the way that you currently think and process situations. And if the way that you currently think and process situations is beating the crap out of yourself, like it has been for me, it's not something that we can overdo overnight. And it's not, so, in my 30 years of living, like, maybe I've thought this way for 25 or 30 or even 30. Like, it's potential that I picked that up immediately from my parents and thought that way from the start. So if it took 30 years to build this belief system, it's not going to take 30 years to unbuild the belief system, but it's for sure, if you're doing it on like a daily basis, it's for sure going to take months to even a year to unbuild it. But it took 30 years to build it. So we need to recognize that things take time and integration, and our body and our nervous system is doing its fucking best, and it is trying to support us, and it's trying to be there for us. And I am so grateful that my body has been supporting me and being there for me, and I'm grateful that it didn't result in like some sort of organ disease or something. Like, beating the crap out of myself could have been like kidney disease, but instead it's just like a couple of extra pounds here and there on like different body parts. And so the analogy I got away from is basically like, okay, think of it like you are going on a hike, but it's not like a loop trail, like it's like a there and back trail. So if you hike for an hour there, maybe it's uphill, right? Like, you're going up a mountain, you hike for the hour, you're going up, it's hard work, it's like you've spent all of this energy and mentally, emotionally, you've had all of these obstacles, all of these boulders to overcome, and you kept getting up, you kept doing these things. That's kind of like what happens with belief systems. Like, it's normally obstacles, challenges, all of these things that have happened that were emotional, that have really deeply ingrained that belief system, that way of thinking within our bodies. It's not like the easy shit that makes you be hard on yourself. It's all of the hard things that you've been through, and you created this perception of, not being good enough, right? If we created this perception of not being good enough, all of these obstacles, these challenges, we think, oh, our perception is that we didn't handle that situation in a way that we wanted to. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough, right? All these things. And so you get to the top of the mountain, now at the top of the mountain is that realization, I don't want to think that way. I don't want to think that I'm not good enough. Like, oh, okay, I have like an aha moment. I'm aware now that I have this belief system that's been subconsciously running the program of I'm not good enough, probably for decades, right? Now is the point where we're like, okay, I'm gonna try a new way of thinking. But we have to turn around. We don't just magically, we're at the top of the mountain, great, we have a new way of thinking. You're not going to live at the top of the mountain. You probably don't have the resources or the means, or you probably, want a real bathroom or something, right? So we need to turn around and come back. And because it was an hour out, it's probably going to be an hour back to get to civilization and where you actually want to be. And that whole trip back, there's still obstacles. It's remember that boulder you had to climb over on the way up? Oh, it's there on the way back, but you have a new perception, and each boulder you climb over, each obstacle that you come up and are faced with, it's an opportunity to say, hey, were you like serious about not wanting to think that you're not good enough? Because here's the opportunity to test that out. Here's a situation where in the past you would have been like, see, I'm not good enough. Well, what do you want to believe this time? Do you want to believe how capable you are? Oh my God, look at how efficiently you climbed over that boulder. You are so capable. And then another obstacle happens, and then another obstacle happens. And each one of those obstacles is an opportunity for you to choose that I'm so capable, belief system. And by the time you get back to the mountain, you know, the way back is always a little faster than the way there, because you've seen the path. You kind of know. You're like, oh yeah, like I recognize this tree, I recognize this rock, like it feels more efficient. So the same is true with building a belief system, but we still have to walk the path, and we still have to do the brain reprogramming work and the emotional processing work to actually build that new neural program. It's not just that one moment of, I should think a new way. I shouldn't think like this anymore. So as we do that work, you know, maybe you come up to an obstacle where you do think the old way. It's okay. It's part of being human, right? Like maybe it's just totally unconscious. You didn't even realize it till after the fact. But after the fact, you can do a pause and be like, ooh, I realize this, I recognize this, and now I can shift it. And then another obstacle comes up and you're like, okay, because I realized I slipped up the last time and I didn't even see it until after the fact, but now I'm noticing it halfway through and I can shift. And then you notice it in advance and you can do it and you can get more and more efficient. And all of this is to say that we need to have more understanding and compassion to our physical body, because it is doing the work. Our physical body is trying to protect us from us. Our physical body is doing so much to ensure that we are safe, that we are protected from ourselves a lot of the time. And that is such an incredible thing. And for me, my initial instinct to like be like, oh, I did gain like 5 pounds and it's been a consistent 5 pounds, was to kind of like be frustrated and annoyed. And then I was like, well, why did I gain the weight? Did I, have I been eating trash? No. Have I been exercising? Yes. Okay, well, the weight is coming from all of this deep emotional work and my not fully being able to completely process it. I am so grateful that my body has been holding on to this and it's, not turning into something worse. And so I can recognize that, and now I can kind of go, and our body also tells us like, where's the extra weight being held? Okay, the extra weight's being held, in my butt, right? Like our butt emotionally is basically like, the emotional root cause of extra weight on our butt is like us not feeling comfortable and safe in our current like reality. Makes sense, right? Or, if it's in your calves, it has to do with like our feeling like we can't move forward in life the way that we want to. Also checks out, right? Like, and so the different body part can also just give us deeper clues of, hey, this is where the work is. This is where we need to focus. This is where we need to put a little more tender love and care. And when we do the deep emotional work, the brain reprogramming, the emotional processing, you can heal so much faster and you're actually going to, lose the weight. And I don't think that the 5 pounds that I have right now is here to stay, because I've continued to work on it and I have looked into it and I know like the root causes and things of the extra weight. So as I continue to heal and grow, the weight is going to shift with it. But I really just wanted this like completely different perspective of additional weight to get you thinking in a way that we can start the journey of becoming more compassionate and kind and understanding of how hard our bodies are working to support us and all of the things that we're going through. And this is a lot of the work that I do too with like one-on-one clients, is like figuring out all these different things, like getting to the specifics so that they can, shift things in their life, whether it be actual physical weight or careers or personal or relationships. Like there's so many different aspects, but our body is often the cues and often the answers to so many different things in our lives. So I just think this is really cool. And I was like, yeah, I feel like this is other people are going through this. So let me know if this perspective has helped you.